Hello everybody and welcome to Round3 Reviews, back with a Hong Kong content review. Continuing on a sort of a theme of swordplay based movies this time around, and as mentioned in my previous video for The Magic Blade, I watched that and The Sword kind of back to back with my friend over the weekend. This film was released in 1980. This is part of Hong Kong's new wave of kind of, experimental kind of movies, new fresh directors. We're taking these kind of this genre and these ideas of supernatural movies and swordplay movies, and taking the more traditional stuff that we've been seeing for quite some time within Shaw Brothers and taking it in different directions and challenging characters, having more complex characters, having more deep dive kind of narratives, and raising the bar a little bit in terms of not just technical aspects with cinematography and kind of colors and performances, but also just kind of making more fascinating, more interesting movies. Whether they're successful, whether they fail, whether they get lost in the shuffle of these many other movies at that time during 1980, it's great to kind of see a lot of these movies get the kind of 5-star treatment and get a brand new release and get a kind of fresh perspective for people like myself who are going into these films the first time, and for fans of these movies that maybe have never got a chance to see them, or maybe did see them but maybe on a poor kind of DVD or VHS quality. So I'm very glad that this one got a release thanks to Eureka. This one is called The Sword, of course. Let's take a look there for you. Slipcase, original artwork. There you go. There you go. There's a booklet and there's the disc. Now, this film was directed by Patrick Tam, which is one of his very first films he did. He did a lot of TV work before this film, and this is his kind of first director debut, essentially, doing a Golden Harvest kind of team-up, which is known for doing a very artistic, very kind of romantic, stylized thriller with some very big names at the time, called My Heart Is That Eternal Rose, which is available on the Vinegar Syndrome release, and also getting part of a double bill with Nomad from the same director, a part of Radiance back in February, coming out next year. So I might actually check that out and be curious to see Nomad for the very first time, and maybe give My Heart Is Eternal Rose another go. And it's interesting because this director, in terms of the extras on this edition, which really kind of dives into the significance of the sword and his filmography in terms of a director and what he did, in terms of being more of a editor leading on to do Hero, and then did Ashes of Time, and then also did editing for Days of Being Wild, which I think is very fascinating. It makes a lot of sense, being the fact there is that kind of cross path. Something I didn't realize and didn't know that when I watched it, My Heart's Eternal Rose initially. So it makes a lot of sense in terms of this kind of very stylized, kind of very well regarded kind of director, which has done a very limited amount of films, would have cross paths and would team up with Wong Kar-wai later on and do some of the editing work on this, or more acclaimed, more kind of signature based kind of movies. It makes a lot of sense, and it's very interesting to kind of see that. And being the fact this is his kind of first directed debut, already having previous experience on television based work, which I think is getting available on the Radiance release, which you can check out for the very first time, which I think is great. I thought this was very impressive, and I thought this was a very good stepping stone film in terms of what this film's trying to go for. And I think the extras on the edition kind of summed up perfectly. This isn't a masterpiece. This is more of a forgotten movie in the kind of shuffle of, during the kind of the mid 80s, where there was so much choice, so many of these types of movies, and depending on the marketing, depending on how well this film did in the box office, where we got a good VHS release or a DVD or Laserdisc, was this film highly received? I don't really know if this film had mixed opinions or not. And now, thanks to kind of Eureka, it's kind of getting a second chance, a second breath of life in the midst of something like the Shaw Brothers Volume 3 set and a lot of other kind of similar kind of movies. A Golden Harvest movie being a bit critical and doing a more simplistic, very honest, very straightforward, and extremely well told, very well crafted, swordsman-based movie about the themes I talked about already within the Magic Blade. I've talked about this within Killer Constable previously to that, and the one on swordsman movies. A similar kind of through line, even something with, funny enough, with the Swords of the Swordsman, which I talked about previously, which has a very similar idea as well, and that predates a lot of these other movies, which I think is quite interesting, and it achieves exactly what it wants to tell in a really nice, breezy 89 minutes. This film is super quick, super fast. It's such an easy film to watch, and I really appreciate this film after seeing the Magic Blade, which kind of has very similar kind of ideas in terms of our main protagonist, but also the talking points of this idea of being the lonely kind of swordsman, this idea of being number one, being the best in your field, essentially, and what does it achieve, what does it offer you by the end. The sword follows our main protagonist character, played by Adam Chung, which is basically a young kind of warrior character, someone who's been training for about 12 years now, and he wants to put his skill set to the test. He wants to find this legendary swordsman, the #1, who has basically gone into hiding, who's gone into recluse and kind of retreated, and he's trying to find the location of this kind of legendary swordsman character. As we find out during the start of the film, he's come across this kind of sword, and this sword is cursed, and basically, you know, he gets told by this kind of blacksmith kind of character that this sword has so much hatred, so much death behind it. If you use this sword, if you basically go into battle again, this will take your life, this will consume you. And it's a kind of a metaphor for the ultimate point of the film. And, you know, Patrick Tam basically is doing a love letter wuxia style kind of film based on a riff of those kind of Shaw Brothers movies and those types of ideas. And this film isn't supernatural, and it's kind of how it plays, but it's the idea of what the sword represents. The sword, you know, is seen too much bloodshed and too much battle. You know, he's giving him a warning of basically just value what you have, get out of the game, you know, go into hiding essentially, and just, you know, do not use the sword, just don't take up arms one more time. And, you know, Adam Chung's character basically is trying to find him, and comes across various kind of other rival characters. One very interesting during the start of the film, which has been waiting for, you know, this kind of recluse kind of swordsman character maybe for 12 years, and basically saying, you are him, and kind of like, no, I'm not, I'm after him as well. And, you know, it's kind of this idea and this kind of talking point of possession and kind of, you know, sacrifice of everything of who you are, essentially, in terms of your time. In fact, this character is going from place to place, comes across an old kind of sweetheart, basically from his hometown, and he no longer lives there anymore. And he's kind of like, you know, there was a time where he potentially could have married her and could have lived with her, and he chose to kind of focus his time and his energy, and passion on this training, on this kind of long journey of, you know, it basically being the best of the best, essentially. And, you know, it kind of, what is it costing him along the way? You've also got Normansuki Soo-young, which is one of our main villain characters, which is unfortunately did pass away not too long ago in real life, you know, leaving a multitude of great, amazing films and performances, and someone who is wanting a collection of these great kind of legendary kind of swords, and basically going through various kind of sneaky, devious kind of means to basically attain them, in terms of framing, in terms of double crossing and setting people up and all that kind of stuff. And he has a henchman alongside it as well. Again, the film's very simple. It has a very minuscule cast. I just think it's great. I think it definitely really benefits the film. And I really like the journey the film goes on. It's a very simple film for an hour and a half. I think the choreographed kind of fighting, I think, is absolutely excellent. This is the same choreographer who eventually would do the Hero movie later on, which I think is great. And to kind of see his very early portion of his work, I think it's very stylized and very interesting, and how he kind of the back and forth, and I think he used the environment to his benefit. I think the cinematography, the look of the film, the music is so 80s and so unique, a synth kind of music. It's such a different kind of feel compared to traditional Shaw Brothers film. I think it's a character within itself. It allows the scenes to kind of breathe at times, allowing for certain emotions to be heightened, alongside with fantastic cinematography, really great lighting, and really unique kind of style kind of play off the sword fighting alongside it. And I think the journey as it goes along gets more intense. I think he definitely becomes more apparent of what the film is trying to say, and, you know, characters do die left, right, and center, and there's a lot of casualties alongside this, and again reinforcing those ideas of honor and respect and status, and you know, what is it costing, what is it worth? And by the end, it kind of really kind of shows that, you know, and really kind of tells that. Something that the Magic Blade did so well was this idea of, I don't want any of this stuff. I just kind of want to walk away, and that's it. I'm done. Essentially, you can have your fancy gimmicks and your weaponry and your wealth and your status and power. I don't want to be a target for basically loads of different assassins and swordplay characters, front and center. Something that also the Swordsman did as well, very well. It actually feels more like a Johnny To film in the sense of Throwdown, which I think was very important, and also another good piece the kind of backdrops, like a Shaw Brothers type film in terms of, instead of sword play, it's more traditional fighting, hand-to-hand combat, but also dives upon those ideas as well, very similar. So yeah, I had a really good time with The Sword ultimately. What are your thoughts and opinions on this director? What are your thoughts and opinions on his other movies like Nomad? Do you think My Heart and Turner Rose is definitely worth a second viewing? I've only watched it once, and I definitely would like to watch it again to see if my opinion has changed. And I think this is a good companion piece to a lot of these other Shaw Brothers movies that are getting new editions and new releases as well alongside it. So yeah, what are your thoughts and opinions on this director? What are your thoughts and opinions on The Sword? Please comment down below. So meantime, guys, I'm for reviews. Signing out.